Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland, this is for you.
What is up, Cavs fans? Thanks for coming to hang out with us. We are the Block the Shot to Stop. Skylar Webker, Kevin Lynch, and Skylar. It's playoff time.
Playoffs, baby. It's the best time of the year for the Cavs fans.
Yeah, some would say the only time of the year. There's a section of the fan base that kind of been sitting around checking in on the team, but really waiting for this to happen. You can kind of understand the way the last season in particular went, but really the last three seasons, a lot of people think the whole season is going to be defined by what happens in the playoffs. I kind of 50-50 on that thinking, but it's here, and we know we start Saturday. We're coming to you Thursday night. The playoffs start Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern, against the Toronto Raptors. An interesting matchup, in a lot of ways a favorable matchup for the Cavs. We're going to get into all that, and before we get into kind of the bulk of our preview, Skylar, how are you feeling in general as we're 36 hours from a little over 36 hours from the playoffs starting?
I feel good. Obviously, we talked about it ad nauseum that this was like Kenny's favorite. Like Kenny wanted this and got what he wanted. I also like the Cavs odds because Toronto is kind of a younger, inexperienced team, especially when it comes to the playoffs. So I like having the kind of wherewithal that the Cavs have with being in the playoffs the past couple of years. And then you have guys who are just perpetually there, like Donovan Mitchell and James Harden.
No, that's totally fair. It's funny you said, because they were interviewing RJ Barrett as like the veteran of the team and asking them how are you expecting the city to react, some of these young guys to react to Raptors playoff basketball. I was like, I don't know. I haven't been here for the playoffs either. So that was just kind of a funny and kind of like a reality of where the Raptors are a young team, very talented team that's kind of broke out a little bit this year after spending the last few years rebuilding since their championship 6 years ago or so. And so we'll hop right into it. We're gonna talk we're gonna do a little bit of get to know our opponents. For any of you that haven't caught the Raptors a lot, the last time the Cavs played them was November 24th. So unless you're more of a hardcore NBA fan, if you're more of just a Cavs fan, don't really blame you for not catching them. It's been 5 months since the Cavs played them. So we'll talk a little bit about the Raptors first. Like, Skylar, as you were kind of, recalling those games from early in the season and maybe looking a little bit about how the Raptors season has gone, what are your thoughts on whether it's kind of some individual players, the team overall?
I think the team overall, like they kind of are just a glue ball of a team. Like everybody on this team is like a great glue guy, but I don't think any piece of anybody on this team is a guy that you're like, I got to build a franchise around that person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's good for them in the sense of all they need is a franchise player, a cornerstone, a person, because I like a lot of the guys on this roster, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickly, like Brandon Ingram, like those are great guys to have around. Like, Could you imagine, take the locker room piece out of it, but could you imagine if like Kevin Durant went to this team right now? Like how much better that they would all be really just they're like one domino away from being like, oh, they're like really good.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I mean, the closest thing they have to a franchise player is Scotty Barnes, who I like a lot as a player. Very commonly gets compared to Evan Mobley because they went back-to-back in the draft several years ago. You could probably argue Scotty had a slightly better season this year than Evan. Evan surely had a better season last year. Honestly, they're very similar players. Like, their defensive first guys that are all NBA level defensive players. And then obviously one defensive player of the year last year. I expect Scotty to be a first team all NBA player this year. And that are also high level contributors offensively, though maybe not to the point where they could carry or be the focal point of your offense. So, but that said, I think Scotty Barnes would be a very good number 2 and out of this world number 3 on a team if you're looking at like championship level, just like Evan is on the Cavs. But they're probably like a superstar away from being a serious contender. I agree with you, but that said, I like a lot of the individual pieces. Like you brought up Kevin Durant. Brandon Ingram is, and I mean this in no disrespect, a poor man's Kevin Durant. He has a very similar build, a similar game, not nearly as talented, but an incredible shot maker, scorer in his own right. He was an all-star replacement, made an all-star team for the first time this year, averaged almost 22 points a game. RJ Barrett's a very solid small forward as well. Canada's own. I've always liked his game going back to his one college year at Duke. And we discussed Scotty Barnes. You said Emmanuel Quickley. We don't know if Emmanuel Quickley is going to be able to play in game 1. I should add he was dealing with some plantar fasciitis and then pulled his hamstring over the weekend. And they're not really letting on how significant it is. Is it something where he could miss the whole series? Is it something where he might be out there in game 1? They're kind of playing chicken with that a little bit, but they do have a lot of good individual pieces. And for anybody who doesn't recall, they started out like gangbusters the first 20 games or so of the year. It was them in Detroit that were running away with the East, and then they kind of came back on the earth. And since the All-Star break, they're like a 500 team. I think they're 14-13, settled in the number 5 seed after some crazy final day of the season shenanigans that we kind of went through on our last episode. And yeah, I expect them to be a quality opponent for the Cavs, but I do think there's several areas where the Cavs could, have a advantage in the series, and a few where the Raptors are. And so we'll just hop in with that as we kind of transition to talking about the series. Like, is there? I'll let you go say one, and then I'll go with one. Like, what advantage do you think the Cavs could have in the series against this Raptors team?
Size. The Raptors, I have them kind of pulled up here. They are a really good defensive team. They were 9th or 11th in the league. They're really good at defending the perimeter, but not very good at defending on the inside. And when they do get on the inside, I think what are they? So let me look real quick. Free throw attempts. They are 19th in the league. At opponent free throw attempts. So
yeah,
get inside, make them stop you, because they'll probably send you to the line. And thankfully, the Cavs have size on the interior in Evan Mobley and Jared Allen.
For sure. Honestly, I'll give a different one, but that's my biggest key to the series is I think they have the Cavs honestly have an advantage over every team in the East with Mobley and Allen. But I think particularly in this matchup, where the Raptors are a little bit smaller. And I think one of the biggest things are the Cavs, the coaching staff, in particular the coaching staff, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, are they going to be patient enough to try and exploit that matchup instead of trying to attack these really high level perimeter defenders, starting with Scotty Barnes. Jacoby Walter is also a fantastic perimeter defender in his own right. So it's not like I don't want Harden and Mitchell to try and score, but I do think as talented as they are, the best advantage is on the inside. I think one thing, and this will kind of lead into another topic where the Cavs had an advantage, it is 3-point shooting. Like the Raptors are a good defensive team when it comes to 3-point shooting, but a really bad just shooting team. I believe they're 29th in the league at 3-point rates, 25th in percentage. And I think there's maybe some strategic things we'll talk a little bit later that the Cavs may do, knowing that. And that said, as good as the Raptors' perimeter defense is, the Cavs have an onslaught of really good 3-point shooters. So I would think that's one other advantage for the Cavs. Can they win the 3-point line, most games or every game? And if they do that, in addition to getting one or both of the big guys going offensively, they're going to be pretty tough to stop. And it's the reason that the Cavs have been the second best offense in the league statistically since the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, as a Cavs fan, hallelujah that you're playing a bottom 5 team
Right.
in 3-point shooting, because that has been the Achilles heel of this Cavs team pretty much all season long. And I agree that they could probably try to win the Cavs could probably try to win on the 3-point battle, but I think you're going to need to use a little more mid-range and interior. So, get that cutting Sam Merrill, not be so reliant on a 3-point shot like James Harden that we've seen and anything like that. Being able to score outside in different ways, and key to see how Kenny makes mid-game adjustments, because he's been reluctant to do that all year. We've talked about that ad nauseum.
Yeah.
But what would you say is something that the Raptors could come out and have a strategic move or advantage in?
100%. It's perimeter defense, and in particularly turning the ball over, getting their opponents to turn the ball over. They're 4th in the league at forcing turnovers. It's 100% going to be a strategy against the Cavs. Obviously, with Harden, it's different now, but you can easily look at the playoffs last year and the beginning of this year, how much perimeter pressure defense can affect the Cavs at times, particularly in the playoffs. And the Raptors' best offense is in transition. They got a lot of long, athletic wings that are great at finishing in transition. So I absolutely think they're going to try and steal the blueprint from Indiana in the playoffs last year and pick up 94 feet, pressure high in the half courts, and try and make Harden make decisions before he wants to, or make sloppy passes. I think they're going to overplay, and I think they'll do it even at the risk of Mobley and Allen have a lot of lanes to finish on the inside. I just think it's the strength. It's the two strengths of their team that correspond together. It's turning their opponent over and then getting out in transition, because they're not nearly as good at a half-court offense as the Cavs. And if it's a half-court game, that greatly favors the Cavs. So I think they're going to overplay pressure defense and try and turn the Cavs over as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how they're such a young team. Well, with young teams, they like to play with pace. And we know in the James Harden era of the Cavs, pace is non-existent.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that was going to be another topic we were going to talk about, but areas the Raptors could have an advantage. I think that's the biggest one. But if you're looking for other reasons, other things to be fearful of, it is the 3-point, or it's the perimeter defense, not only turning the ball over, but could they kind of force the Cavs into their game, and their game being the Cavs taking contested threes? I mean, how many games have we seen this year where we're like, why are the Cavs shooting 53s in this game when they're shooting 27% on them? And the Cavs have been to a team, and Kenny comes out in press conference saying, I want to keep firing. I want to keep firing when we're off. So I think the response to the Cavs' advantage on the inside is, can we pressure them into contested threes and have that be the majority offense? Obviously, the Cavs have incredible 3-point shooters. I mean, both Sam Merrill and Jalen Tyson were top 5 in the NBA in percentage. That's before you even get into Mitchell and Harden and some of the other guys. But if you're looking for a way that I see the Raptors having an advantage in the series, it would be, or what they would want to do defensively. They don't want deep penetration. They don't want Harden and Allen having the ball inside the restricted area. They'll live and die with the Cavs taking a 3 with their hand in their face. And so I think it's all kind of a part of one strategy as far as perimeter defense, but it could dictate a lot of different things that happen in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other kind of advantage that the Cavs have is quality depth. I mean,
Yeah.
the Cavs legitimately have 10 NBA guys that you've heard of, even if you weren't a Cavs fan. The Raptors don't have that yet. But I mean, like you said, they have tons of glue and role players, and we've seen how Indiana, they had nothing but role players and glue guys, Tyrese Halliburton, and completely flip a franchise.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's exactly right. I think the Cavs are deeper. Depth sometimes doesn't matter as much in the playoffs, where that, you push the starters a little bit further. But I do think the Cavs have so much perimeter depth. They don't have a lot of interior depth.
Yes.
Right now, especially if Thomas Bryant actually hasn't been practicing this week. So I don't necessarily think they want to go to him, but if he's not around, that's even just one less option as far as interior depth. But the Raptors, on the other hand, especially if Emmanuel quickly doesn't play, their bench gets real short real quick. They only have I think 5 guys that average in double figures as far as points this year, and their bench consists of guys I don't dislike their games, but they're more specialists that and quite a bit of youth on the bench as well. So I do think, as much as depth comes into play, I do think that would be an advantage for the Cavs.
Yeah, I think it's an advantage for the Cavs. The only concern that I have is the undersized bench that the Cavs do have. I mean, your bench is going to be Schroeder, Keon Ellis, Max Strus, and Sam Merrill, and Jalen Tyson, likely. Kind of an undersized and perimeter 3-point eccentric bench. So I think that could be a move that the Raptors kind of pounce on and say, we are a great 3-point defensive team.
Yeah.
You're take the bench out of the game.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually going to throw a bonus question in here. I did not prepare for you for this, but I've been thinking about an answer too. It's actually friend of the pod, Tony Pesta over at Junkyard Pod, was asking questions for their podcast, and I threw this one out that I believe he used, and we might as well answer ourselves. Of the 5 guys that we know are either going to be the 5th starter or come off the bench. So I'm talking Strus, Merrill, Wade, Ellis, Tyson. Of those 5, whether you have a ranking or you just want to pick out 1 or 2 of those 5 that you think would have the biggest impact in this series.
I think it's going to be Dean Wade. I think that's the guy that I have because of the size that you have on with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. You're not going to run those guys 48 minutes.
Yeah.
You need somebody coming off the bench with that size and this skill set to defend on the perimeter, which we know is a lackadaisical thing with this Cavs team. Having that size off the bench with the count that, Thomas Bryant still hasn't practiced with the team or anything like that. I don't think Kenny's going to go to Naquan Tomlin all that much unless he has to.
I agree.
So you're really left with one guy against Max Strus, or not Max Strus. That's Dean Wade.
Yeah. So my answer that I kind of have 2 answers. The guy who I think it should be is Jalen Tyson, because I think I've been on record on this several times that I think Tyson is the best, does the most things that they need in a 5th guy on this team. That said, he just came back from injury. This is going to be his first playoff action. I don't even know if he appeared in the playoffs last year. I can't remember if he did. If he did, it was very brief. But I think my answer for it is Max Strus, mostly because Kenny wants it to be Max Strus. And I think whether Max starts or not, he's going to be getting 28 minutes a game. And I think Max is going to get the most opportunity of those 5. I may or may not agree with it. And if I'm right about him getting the opportunity, I certainly hope he capitalizes on it. But I'm going to go with Max just because I think that's who Kenny's going to give the most opportunity to, because of, his playoff experience and because of what he has meant to this Cavs team the last several years. Even if he hasn't rounded completely back into form, I think he's going to give that a chance now. But I very much agree with you. I think it should be a Tyson or a Wade, because I think you need a little bit more size and rugged defensive player against this team to match up with a Brandon Ingram, to match up. I really don't want to see the Cavs go small and go to these 4-guard lineups. I think that's going to be a death sentence in this series. Not saying Kenny won't do it. I think Kenny wants to do it against maybe better judgment. But I would say Max Strus. Now, take those guys out of it. Obviously, we'll include the big 4, and the answer is probably one of them. What Cavs player, single Cavs player, do you think is the biggest key to the series?
It's got to be Evan Mobley. You know, it's not only his defensive ability, I think he's going to be the rim stopper, which, this team, this Raptors team, not a 3-point shooting team. They like to get in the paint. They like to get in there. And they have guys like Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes that, will drive to the hole. So I think you need to have that defensive presence and then also bring it on the other end. The only worrisome piece is this is a foul. They love to foul, and Evan Mobley can't hit free throws.
No, I think that's a really good answer, and certainly one I considered. I actually went the other way. I went Jared Allen, and for the simple reason, when the Cavs were playing their best this season, it's when Jared Allen was a focus and he was playing the best basketball of his career. I don't think he's the best player on this team, but he might almost be the key to this team. If he is being looked at regularly on the offensive end through the pick and roll, through finishing off of other guys' drives, through an occasional post up, I just think a lot of other things fall into place. I think you get him going those 3-point shots, you get an extra half step of separation on your defender for those 3-point shots. And so I think the best 2 months of this Cavs season was when Jared Allen was playing like one of the best centers in the league. So if he can get back to Black History Month Jared Allen or anything close to it, I think it would be a huge indicator of the Cavs having success in the series.
Yeah, and hey, I think this is a time where you like James Harden because he kind of gets that out of your bigs on the offensive end.
Yes, I think James is obviously one of the best in the history of basketball at the operating out of the pick and roll and setting up the roll man, usually your center to finish. And he obviously had instant chemistry with Jared Allen. They were incredible for about the first month Harden was there. Then J.A. got injured, and now that he's back, they nursed him a little bit those last few games of the regular season. When he came back, they didn't. But I hope they go back to that as a central point of their offense. And all this to say, like we've talked about Donovan Mitchell very seldom for being 22 minutes in this podcast. I think Donovan's going to average close to 30 a game in this series, and I want him to be aggressive and all those things. I just think with this particular matchup, as good as Donovan is, it's just not the best advantage the Cavs have. And I just really want to see them almost just be patient with it and stick with it. Because I think if they stick with it, I think it's going to lead to a lot of success. All right.
You part it up. It's kind of funny that we've gone this far without talking about Donovan Mitchell because we just kind of assume Donovan's going to
he's been
deliver.
the one. He's been the one constant through this 4 years of Cavs basketball, like kind of this era of Cavs basketball. The core four, obviously one of the core four changed out, but he has been the one who's always shown up. For the most part, always been healthy, always performed exceptionally well. So we're probably not bringing him up as much because he's the surest thing on this roster right now when it comes to the playoffs. All right, let's get to it. We're gonna give our predictions. Who's gonna win the series? How many games is it gonna go? Skylar, I'll let you go first.
I think Cavs win in 5.
Okay.
I don't think Toronto is ready for the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse or whatever it is now, because it will be loud, it will be bumping, it'll be a completely lunatic sellout crowd. So I don't think they're ready for that environment. I think Cavs take both here at home, probably drop the first one on the road, and then win out from there.
Okay, I like that. I went slightly different. I went Cavs in 6. I will say I'm extremely worried about game 1, and because it is a 1:00 Eastern game, the Cavs are 3-7 in afternoon games this year. Afternoon game being defined as something that starts at 3:30 Eastern or earlier. I am a little worried that the Raptors, if the Raptors are going to be competitive and draw out the series, I think they need to get game 1. And I think they're going to come out. I think they have a very, very good coach, and I'm just going to call him Darko because I'm terrible at pronouncing Serbian last names, and not that I know him, but I don't want to offend him and mispronounce his name. But I do think that I am nervous about game one. I'm pretty confident in the Cavs over the series, but I could just see, the Raptors coming out and getting a double-digit lead in the first quarter, a little bit of like, panic or just unrest from the Cavs side, and between kind of some of the way some other pressure playoff situations have gone in recent years, the James Harden like possibility of his playoff kind of checkered past, and the fact that they always seem to struggle in these afternoon games. I actually think the best hope for them at doing a good performance is exactly what you said. The fact that it's at home, the crowd's going to be crazy. Just come out and have a decent first quarter. Don't let give the crowd a reason to just disconnect from the game. But I'm going to say Cavs in 6.
Fair points.
Yeah.
So you got me nervous about game one now.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I wasn't, but it's been just a weird thing with the Cavs game this year that like apparently their night owls and lunchtime games do not serve them. All right, well, we're gonna get out of here. We've already had a couple episodes this week. We've done our traditional closes, so we're gonna go back to the well of when we had our friend Will from Green with Envy podcast on to talk about the Cavs Celtics, and close with like say one nice thing about your opponent or your nice city. And I'm doing this more for me because I've had a roller coaster week with Toronto. I really enjoyed being there. Then we got matched up against the Raptors, and I cursed them out the other day. So maybe this is my redemption arc, but I'll let you go first as to say one nice thing about Toronto or the Raptors.
No shade to the Raptors, man. I mean, they're a good franchise. I know they kind of ran into LeBron for a bunch of years,
Yeah.
and that's the first year that LeBron wasn't in the East, they won a title. So they're definitely a good franchise, and you had all those historic players come out of there. So it's not like a Celtics hate or anything like that. Like they are a well-respected franchise in my book.
Yeah, I wanted to say like Toronto is a fantastic sports city because of their fans, whether their individual franchises have success or not. I feel like all of us hardcore sports fans like naturally hate a lot of opponents and stuff. I don't hate one Toronto team despite cursing them out the other day. Like I just think I think they're knowledgeable, they're passionate in the right way, and they're also like genuinely nice people. Like one of my closest buddies is named Gavin Slate in Nashville, and he's like couldn't be a nicer guy and a more passionate, especially Blue Jays fan, but Toronto sports fan in general. And I think it's a great sports town in general with great sports fans, and wish them all the best with the exception of this series that we're starting on Saturday.
For sure. And the Raptors need to make the purple uniforms permanent.
Yeah,
I love I don't know if you saw it. I love their Vince Carter tribute logo, which is impeccable.
They have some fantastic throwback jerseys from the early 2000s. I agree with that. So with that, we're going to get out of here. I'll put this on all the socials. I should have led the show with it, but we're actually going to go back to our old model for the playoffs. So we're going to do recaps immediately following each game, get those episodes out right away, kind of more instant reaction like we used to do on this show, and hop in and try and like ride this wave. Hopefully Cavs have a good game one win and start building some momentum in this playoff run. I mean, our buddy Luca, real Cavs fan, said like, does the last 8 years of Cavs basketball come down to these next 8 weeks? And I really think it could. I think if they fall short of expectations, where I think expectations are at least these Eastern Conference Finals, if not beyond, that there could be a real shakeup in this roster this summer. And so I'm really hoping, and I think we all are, for the best in this playoff run, and we want to be in the middle of it as much as we can be. And so for that reasons, we're going to go back to podcasts right after each episode. So make sure you check us out. Saturday we'll have an episode up within an hour out after the game with our instant reactions. So for Skylar Webker, I'm Kevin Lynch. Here we go, Cavs fans. It's playoff time. We'll be back Saturday, and as always,
go Cavs.